company is An Unstoppable Life, and I do coaching and healing work and public speaking, and I love helping people find their way towards a really cool, happy, amazing, incredible, unstoppable feeling life. And I started this conversation series called Life Unleashed recently so that I could get a chance, honestly, to talk with some of the amazing people that I've been meeting lately, and to not only talk about things that matter and things that are helpful in the world right now, but also to provide some useful practices, some tools, some mindset changes for everyone else around to feel better too. So I'm really, really honored to have Jason Gardner here as my guest for this live. It's been a really great journey just to get it live tonight. And thank you for joining us. Those of you who are out there, please feel free to throw comments in the comment section. We will absolutely get to your questions and we will have answers for you, or at least suggestions. And I want to let Jason introduce himself because he's a man of many hats, all of which are interesting and all of which seem to somehow overlap in a really, really amazing way for his clients. So Jason, over to you.
Hey, hi, Amy. Hello, everyone in the virtual world, which we seem to be more a part of than ever, which is great. I think there's something wonderful about being able to connect, and even, I guess, having a reason to be out here to connect with other people. We all seem to feel that way. So here we are. My name is Jason Gardner. I also go by Jason Escape as the sirens go by. It's perfect timing. I am a coach, a life coach. I have a company called Radical Shift Coaching, and I help people create radical shifts in their life using really simple transformative steps. That's my goal with everyone, is that you can do this. It's simple. It's not complicated. It just takes time. And over time, with simplicity, you can actually achieve some great stuff. And as an escape artist, I also work on escaping what's holding me back physically, literally. I'm in a straitjacket. And so many of the techniques of being an escape artist, it's such a great metaphor for the inner escape that we all have, the struggle to get through what's holding us back, of what is bounding us in, so many great juicy words of ways of looking at it. And so we're here today. It's just great. We're going to talk about, relaxing and kind of how to chill out during this crazy time. And, I put myself in crazy times all the time. That's what I do for a living as an escape artist. I'm constantly in crazy shit. So there's techniques that really help that I've used. So we're going to share some of those. I know that. But that's my intro. So coach, performer, all mixed up together, helping people escape. Yeah.
And, it's interesting when you and I first met and we were talking about how the overlap between being a coach and helping people escape from the things that don't work in their lives, and then you're literally a physical experience of escaping. And so I'm really curious to know from you, there's the obvious kind of overlap of, okay, so we're all dealing with things that we would prefer to escape from or don't want to deal with. For instance, the whole stay home thing, or, like, what am I going to do with my business right now? There's all of these things that feel really big and uncertain, and we'd all love to push them away and escape from them. And those are the more obvious ones. But what's something that for you is an area where you see there's a little more subtlety to that overlap of escapism or escaping?
Yeah, I guess it's the belief that people have that they need to struggle. It needs to be intense. It needs to be no pain, no gain.
Yeah.
Warlike mentality to get better. And as an escape artist, that will only physically I will get hurt if I literally try to muscle my way out of something. Yeah. I will literally hurt myself, and I've done it. Years ago, I was stuck upside down, and I didn't know exactly the method of getting out, and I did my best, but I started to muscle my way out. And what happened was I immediately depleted my energy to the point that once I escaped, I actually got out. I couldn't upright myself. I was still hanging upside down, and I couldn't get, I literally, it was the weirdest feeling. Imagine, I mean, I'm actually able to, when I'm upside down, I'm able to climb up myself. That's something I've been able to do through training. I couldn't do it. I was limp. I mean, limp. So that, the slow and steady definitely is a better way to look at it. And I think that's still a misnomer. People think that they need to turn up the heat, turn up the energy, turn it up. And another great metaphor is people are planting a seed and then yelling at the tree to grow.
Yeah.
Last year it was brilliant.
Or they plant a mango seed and they think they're going to get a cherry tree, and they wonder why they didn't get a cherry tree, because that's what they wanted, right?
Yeah, I mean, that goes to a very deep. You're only going to get what's inside of you. Literally, right. If that's another whole area.
So that idea of making it harder on ourselves, I mean, that comes up a lot. I'm assuming with your clients. I know it does with my clients, and I think it's in some ways in our culture, particularly, we have this idea of, oh, like you said, no pain, no gain. If it's not hard, it's not worth it. And I think one of the things for people, particularly now, to realize in terms of a mindset shift is think about, where can you relax? Where can you release into what's happening right now so that you give yourself space to see some options. And I'd love, if you're just jumping on to join us, please feel free, throw some questions in the comment section. We would love to tackle your questions. We've got all kinds of answers for you, and you can pick and choose which ones work for you. But so that idea about really wanting to make things hard because that feels like you're getting somewhere, but it actually, as you said, trying to get out of that, do you call it an escape when you're doing that?
Well, I mean, literally, escaping. I mean, if I'm in a straitjacket, it's getting out of a straitjacket. That is the thing that I'm escaping from.
Yeah.
And it could be a shitty job for some people. That's the thing. It's their straitjacket, right? It's the same thing. You know what I mean? So did you go in and you fucking go to your boss like I'm gonna freak out? No, you can't. You're not gonna get anywhere that way. I mean, that's not the way to do it. Yeah. No, it's the opposite. It's like, again, what's available to me now? Once I relax and slow down before it starts. I'm gonna go in and speak to my boss. What's that look like? Even before I go in, so what does the end look like? So I already know what it looks like to escape.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For example, I know what the jacket coming off looks like.
So what do you do if you don't? Like the first time you did it, you didn't actually know what this is going to look like. So
true.
What do you do if you don't have that idea in your head ahead of time of, I know what this is going to look like?
Well, here's the thing. It's great. It's perfect. It's a great, I have these 5 keys, and one of them is about getting help. I mean, I feel like these 5 fundamental keys, and one of them is about getting help. So the first time I got a straitjacket, I got put into the straitjacket. My roommates went out and left me there, and I was stuck. I was stuck, and I couldn't get out. And they came back and laughed at me, and they unbuckled me, and that was that. And I went underneath my bed for a while and didn't do anything with it, because I didn't know what I didn't know. So so again, it wasn't that I couldn't know and couldn't find out, but I didn't want to. So if I was passionate enough, it took some time and became passionate enough again to really want to know, and opening myself up to the universe about, well, how do I do this, right? Like how do I actually do an escape? Like, what does that look like? What are the tricks? What are the things that you have to know? It's real, but there are still techniques. And then the universe started showing up and giving me support, getting help. So that's when the change happened.
That question that you posed yourself, which I really love, is how do I imagine this will go? Because that creates some real spaciousness to look at. I wonder, there's the curiosity, right? So whenever we bring curiosity to a problem, instead of saying it has to be this way, or I need to do it this way, or I should be doing this, when we say, ooh, I wonder what this is going to look like, or I wonder what I could do, or I wonder what the outcome might be, that like gives us all that space to breathe in.
Yes. Yeah. It's beautiful. And yet still, then you still have to show up. You still have to make that step and show up.
Yeah.
And so I literally was in Australia. I played music, so I was producing a band out there, but I brought a straitjacket with me to work because I knew some performers out there, and I was going to work and get myself out and just go do it.
Right.
As a street performer, go out on the street and do it. And I sat around for a long time and didn't do it. And one day I finally went out, and I went out with, like, again, I got in front of it. I got ahead of it. I'm going to figure this out. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just going to figure it out.
Right.
I'll do something out there, and maybe I'll make some money, but I'll do something. I'll figure it out, because I know the only way to do it, to get better at this, from what I've seen from other performers, is to get out and do it. You got to do like 1,000 shows. You got there's like a mathematics to it. You got to like do a certain amount. So let me just say this. I go out, and then on that day happens to be this girl, Emma, who's now a friend of mine. Emma was doing a contortion show. She was contorting herself, and she used to do a straitjacket escape, and had all these like things in her show that I could. So she started suggesting and helping me and giving me information that I really needed to grow my show, to grow my ability. So, I mean, again, it was about showing up. And then, so yeah, get ahead of it, think about possibility, relax into it, and then show up knowing that the information is going to be there for you.
That's so cool. So if you're just joining us, I'm Amy Kosh of An Unstoppable Life Coaching. And my guest tonight is Jason Gardner of Radical Shift Coaching. He's also an amazing performer, musician, producer, escape artist. What other hat do you wear?
The Mohawk. I got to try to plug in my computer, though.
Yeah. And we both share a real love of sticky notes. So.
Oh yeah, so on the back there, you got to go for it, guys. You got to organize it right.
So because you just got up and you showed us all your sticky notes on your wall, I want to applaud you, because I'm a huge fan of sticky notes.
Oh, wonderful.
And what I often do is I use them all the time in terms of changing habits. I think they're a great way to really deal with, like, if you notice that you've got a habit that's getting in your way. Yes. A great way to change them is literally write out the new one that you want on sticky notes and stick it everywhere around you can possibly imagine, on your clock radio. Do people have clock radios anymore? On the mirror in their bathroom, right? On the inside of their steering wheel or something, so that you see it everywhere, so that you're reminding yourself, this is the way I want to be living now, or this is the habit I want to do now, because you've got to do it it's 21 days of just practicing a new habit to get it going. So what other tricks do you have for changing old habits that are not serving you or getting in your way into a new habit that is serving you?
Well, I think what you just said was great. I want to tag onto that. So we're talking about triggers, so you can have these Post-its and these signs, but they do need to be places that are really going to be places you see them. So like doorknobs and with your keys and with your phone are places that are really, really good.
I would do it also on the phone itself. Like when you turn your phone on, you have that shot.
Screensavers and all that stuff, you should always utilize that for good messages, And I do a whole thing about optimizing your phone, about how to set up your phone to be a tool and not to be a distraction. So there's a whole way of setting up your phone to do that, and I'm really, really into that, because it's such a major part of our lives that I devote like a whole part of my coaching to it. It's like how you use your damn phone. I mean, that's how important it is.
It's also that trigger too of the phone dinging. Literally, it increases the stress and cortisol levels in our bodies when we hear.
I have none. I don't do that at all. I mean, this is a quick. I'll give you a quick piece.
Yes.
I'll give everybody a quick small tidbit of that. So get rid of all notification dings and get rid of all little dots, all badges. No badges. Those red dots are designed to just give you a drop of dopamine.
Yeah.
It's designed to just mess you up like heroin. Don't do it. Just don't do it. So go to your phone, turn off your badges, turn off your notifications, and use privacy mode and airplane mode as much as possible.
Yeah, which will also save your battery, which is great.
Yeah, these days the battery life they're getting pretty good now. It used to be like a thing where now it's like that's not becoming as much of an issue. I've noticed battery life as much.
I also did learn a trick recently that I love about the iPhone, at least. If you leave it face down, even if you have it in mute, it won't send messages to the front screen when you get text messages, which is great because then when you pick it up, because if you leave it face up, they show up on your front screen, even if they don't ding. And it's like,
and if anybody else on the stream, by the way, and this is a Facebook post, right? So please, if anybody else has any tricks for their phone to like optimize their lives and like use their phone as a tool, not a distraction, please put it below. Let us know how you do that, because I'm curious always to know that. So real quick about triggers, because we were saying so here's a great example that really works. If you leave a tray of dental floss or like a thing on your bathroom counter, you're way more likely to use dental floss every night or every day. So things like that. It's just an obvious thing. So think of it that way. So Post-it notes and reminders need to be present. And if you get used to them, you have to move them around. You have to change them, if you get used. So that's just something like you have to keep the effectiveness alive for it. It can't just be something that you just go through and then you get used to it. So here's another quick little thing about when you think about something, when you think about an intention or a habit change, something that's written on a Post-it note, 17 seconds is the minimum that you should spend. I know it's an arbitrary number, but this is what some strange people out there say, but I think it's a good number. I think 17 makes sense. It's just enough time to sit with something and not be used to those words that you've read every single day. It's enough time to stay with something. Does that make sense?
It does. And, there's an interesting correlation to yogic science that I want to throw in, because the 17 seconds is also corollary to 17 minutes. And when you are meditating, if you are truly meditating and you hit that state, when you're doing that and you're not trying to think of something, you're not trying to solve some problem or get to some answer, but you're literally just sit down, allow your back to be supported, close your eyes and try not to think of anything for a little bit. But when you allow your body to get into that state, it will stay there for 17 minutes and then you will come out and you'll come out of it and you'll be like, oh, I'm done. You'll just know you're done, but it's always 17 minutes.
It's interesting. So
yeah, that 17 seconds to 17 minutes. I wonder what happens in 17 hours.
I don't know. So there's obviously something magical. And I mean, in numerology, there's something to be said for all these things, because 17 in numerology is 8.
Okay. I don't know anything about numerology.
All right. So a 2-digit number gets boiled down to 1.
Okay. So what's 8 mean?
8. Well, 8 has a lot of meanings, but one of the things that I like to see, and I'm very into symbolism, is 8 on its side is the infinity.
Yes.
So for me, that's really what this symbolizes for me is ongoing.
So I want to about, since we were also talking about triggers and new habits, I wanted to give people also a mudra, which is just a hand position. It's actually a physical piece. I like to call it somatic hacking, because you're actually hacking what your body does. And it's a great way to help instill a new trigger or a new action when you're trying to habit change. So one of the things you can do is you're going to take your left hand. I have to get used to this backwards. Right? So you're going to take your left hand and you're going to bring it over onto your right shoulder, right on the side of your shoulder, just like this, these 2 fingers. And you just want to press in, and you'll feel in between the muscles in there, there's like a little space. And you're just going to press in there and rub pretty hard. If it starts to hurt, that's good, or you've done a lot of push-ups lately, right? So that will also help when you're trying to instill a habit. So what you want to do is, while you're doing this and you're pressing in right into the muscle right there, you're pressing in and you're thinking about what it looks like or what it feels like when you are in that new habit. So let's say you're somewhat of an introvert and you want to be a little more extroverted. So what you want to do is imagine that you're walking down the street and you're waving to people and you're saying hello, and they're smiling and waving back and they're saying hi. And maybe they're even, you startle some people into some smiles. While you're thinking of that behavior, which is the new behavior, you're going to be pressing into that spot on your arm. And that will help also instill that feeling and help you embody that feeling or that new way of being or thinking. So there's the physical hack for that.
Is this correlated to a pressure point?
I'm sure it is. So
I'm like you. I don't.
So here's the
I like when things work, they work.
It works. I mean, so all of the healing work, all the information that comes is direct knowledge. And for me, it was a really interesting shift talking about beliefs. For a long time, I kept thinking, this can't be real. It's impossible. It can't be real. And then I had a friend call me one day. He had broken up with a girl. And he thought he was going to marry this woman. He was sobbing his eyes out. He hadn't slept in 3 days. He could barely breathe. And I said, look, can you just stop for a minute? Because as I'm on the phone with him, I just thought, well, I should just tell him to do this shape on his hand. I can't remember what it was exactly now, but I talked him through it. And I said, okay, well, put these 2 fingers together and hold here and press here and count to 5 and do that 3 times. And he stopped crying. And then he was like, what the fuck was that? I said, I have no idea, but just now you can talk to me because I couldn't talk to you before. It turned out the next day I had an appointment to go to see someone who does brain integration, which is really interesting because I love neuroplasticity and I'm a total brain science geek. And she happens to have a background in Chinese medicine. So I said, hey, what are these points that I told this guy yesterday? And she said, oh, well, one is pericardium. So you're releasing the pressure around the heart. And the other is overstimulating and mental mulling. So it's when what's the word for it? When you keep regurgitating your own, ruminating. Yeah, ruminating. Right? She said, so in Chinese medicine, those 2 points will release heartache and stop rumination. She said, when did you learn Chinese medicine? I said, I don't know the first thing about it. So this is where all this stuff shows up. And it works. And I always offer it. I'm like, look, you don't have to believe any of it, but try it. Because if it works, great. If it doesn't work, let it go.
I love that distinction. That's something that I picked up along the way. It's basically testing versus trusting.
Yeah.
And the distinction is, just I ask my clients to test things out, to see what they're like, and then do it, and then get the feedback from it. Did it work? Do you feel better?
Yeah.
If it does, then rinse and repeat. Let's just keep doing that. And then decide during a day what's non-negotiable for you. Like what things, like brushing your teeth, or taking certain vitamins, or having breakfast or coffee. What's non-negotiable? Meditation, yoga, journaling.
Yeah.
What else?
And what are the things you choose to do? Right. So are you choosing to journal? Are you choosing to have coffee? Or are you just doing it out of like, this is what I do? Right. And the more things we do out of choice, the more choices we actually will see in our life. Right. It's when we get sucked into these habits of, or you tell yourself, oh, I have to have coffee or I'm a grouchy person. Well, okay, that might be true, but it might also not be true.
And coffee's not the best non-negotiable example, actually, as I was saying things, I just realized. But it could be if that's a ritual for you. See, this is what if it's the ritual for you to bring you to a certain place, then that can be non-negotiable. Of course, flexibility is important in this, of course.
Yeah. Well, again, choice. There's that whole thing of like, are you choosing to have the coffee because that's a ritual? Or you feel like you're a terrible person and grumpy if you don't have it, so you feel like you're compelled to have it.
Right. It's the opposite. This is something that really that serves you, that is something that is for you, that really works, that supports your best self, and
Yeah.
something that I would choose to do again and again and again. And the reason I lay into this is because people often will say, well, I want to do like an hour of yoga, but if I can't do an hour, then I won't do any.
Right. Yeah, I've heard that
And
a
it's
lot.
like, you know what I mean? Or even whatever it is. And that's where I think non-negotiable comes in. It's like, well, how important is that to you? If that's really important to you and you've chosen that's something that you want in your life,
Yeah.
then you do it. Even
Yeah.
when you're not, sometimes when you're not even feeling it, it's something that works for you, do it.
And there's always
You know?
like, take a baby step, right? So
Of course.
2 minutes. Start with 2 minutes if you
That's
can.
it. I mean, all of this stuff is we're talking minutes. I mean, Tony Robbins, his morning routine is 10 minutes. It's a 10-minute morning routine.
Yeah. I'm not
You
going to
know,
admit what mine is.
no, I mean, I've gone through the
Mine's
gamut.
really long right now.
I've gone through the gamut of having 4-hour morning routines to having 10-minute morning routines and
Yeah.
everything in between.
Or none.
Playing with, and none. And that's where it is. See, that's the thing is none really kind of, I notice the difference.
Yeah.
If there's any, my day is better.
Yep.
When there's none, like
Yep.
no routine in the morning and the night before, like for me, like, here's a huge hack. Like, know what the hell you're doing the next day.
Yeah.
Like before you go to bed, just know what you're doing. Write it down. Like,
Yeah.
what a gift to wake up and not have to think about that, because the brain is messy in the morning. It's foggy and we need a little help, most of us. So just like to look at a piece of paper and go, oh yeah, this is something I really want to do today.
So what's something, actually, I want to, in case people just joined us, I want to just reintroduce you, and maybe you'll reintroduce me this time. So this is Jason Gardner, who is a wonderful coach and performer and escape artist and all around amazing guy who I'm really enjoying getting to talk to. And he runs, and what's the name of your company again?
It's Radical Shift Coaching.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And you want to do me?
Yeah. Well, this is Amy Kosh, and you're a life coach. Would that be what's this? Yeah.
Life coach, motivational speaker, writer.
Yeah, you have and you're a speaker and a writer, and your coaching really has a very nice spiritual side to it. I think it's very, very helpful for people. And what I know about Amy is that she has a nice balance of logic and like the hacks that we both enjoy versus the woo-woo, the spiritual side that just kind of like the heart of it, which is you can't really, there's no hack for that. It's just,
I don't know, because we both have that. And I think there is a hack for that. So let's talk about that, because that's a great topic.
How do you hack love?
And again, if you're just joining us, please feel free to throw some comments in, throw questions.
Absolutely. Let me know that I'm full of shit once in a while.
Right. So, can you hack love? I'm not sure about that one.
Well, I already know that you can. I already know that you can.
How do you hack love? That's a good one.
It's simple. It's hacking love to me is basically about being extremely specific using the somatic search engine is one way to put it.
Oh, I love that. But can you tell me what that is specifically?
Basically, you have Google, which is a real physical digital search engine, right? So when you type something into Google, I'll give you an example. If you type the word Madonna into Google, up comes a lot of results.
Right.
A lot of them are about the singer, some of them are about the religious figure, some about other things, right? So that's pretty vague. Yeah. But if you type in Madonna musician, up comes now 10 million results about Madonna the musician.
Right.
That's still pretty broad. But then if you type in Madonna musician first album, then you're talking like you're getting a little more specific. Then if you talk Madonna musician first album, first song, how many?
That would be Holiday.
Thank you. Wow. I think I hit a nerve. I'm very intuitive this way. I know my metaphors. I know how to bring them up.
I love that song. Sorry.
But then, you can see how the more specific you are with your query, right, with your request, the more specific Google can be in its return.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I think you know where I'm going. So the
I do know
somatic
where
search
you're
engine
going, and I love it.
is
You just
basically,
gave me a place to step in after. So go ahead.
yeah, the somatic energy. I think we dovetail beautifully together.
Yeah.
That's why we like talking together.
Yeah.
It's the somatic search engine is basically the search engine that we have inside of us, and that this is kind of going into an area that you don't have to necessarily believe in or not, but let's just talk about future probability. There's a huge amount of probability in the future, right? There's just like every possible outcome, right, is possible. Let's just say that. So the more specific you are with your intent, let's say the intent is your query, it's your request. The more specific you are with your intent, the more specific the universe can now deliver, which is the return, which is the result. Okay, or life, or God, or whatever you want to call that, but or experience, or whatever shows up for you in life, however you want to say it. So, if one would be, if one is extremely specific, using their intent by meditating, journaling, visualizing about who they really want to be as a partner and who they want to be for that partner, how they would have to show up to get that partner, what that partner would look like in every way, shape, or form. If they were really, really to be specific about that, well, a few things happen. One is the subconscious cannot differ between real and imagined.
Right.
And the other thing is that the future probability is now, you've modified the future probability to your, you've adjusted the curve to your advantage.
Yeah.
You're more likely to find that mate. That mate will show up for you.
Yeah.
And I believe this.
Yeah. Well,
so that's
because you're also bringing. No, I love it. So, and then the physical hack for that, which I'm going to throw in here.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you mentioned was, the more that you can be really specific about what you're looking for, the more likely you're able to see it in part. And here's the science geek piece about this. Human beings.
The RAS? Are you talking about the RAS?
You're
talking about the RAS?
No, I'm talking about the fact that human beings can only focus on one thing at a time, but whatever we focus on, we see more of. So if we are focused, if we're really clear, so if I ask my heart, right, okay, this is I love that somatic search, right? If the somatic search engine, I ask my heart, okay, this is what I really want in a relationship, or this is really what I want from this person I want to be with. And I imagine getting this. I don't imagine him or her, but I imagine what it feels like to be in that relationship. The other thing that happens is I will start to notice that kind of behavior from all kinds of people because I'm paying attention to it already.
Yes.
And that's part of how humans are. I mean, that's how we function. And then the second piece, and this is straight out of Chinese medicine, because this is one I've learned retroactively. So if you take your right hand and you run it right down the side of your throat right here, this is an ancestral line in Chinese medicine. And what you're doing is you're clearing out any blocks in your ancestral line.
Interesting.
And the minute you start to clear out blocks in your ancestral line, what you're doing is you're allowing, right? So you're opening up yourself to allow for new experiences, new people. And it's really about opening ourselves up in some ways to the possibility of something that we actually didn't know existed before, right? Because if we knew it existed before, we'd be with that person. Instead, we're not. So clearly we want something different, right?
Yes.
But I'm going
to. Beautiful.
I love your somatic search engine. So
awesome. Amy, the first thing you mentioned is, so to give you a little more information about that.
Yeah.
That's why we notice, like when we buy a red car, we notice red cars, what I mean? And why we, in a crowded room, we can hear our name being mentioned across the room. That's the reticular activating system.
Okay.
That's the part of the brain that filters out
all the other stuff.
You're taking so much stuff at once
that
if the conscious mind were to take it all in, you'd go crazy. So it goes into the subconscious. What the conscious mind grabs onto is the things that you pay attention to, the things that you have intention on.
Right.
Get it?
Yeah.
Right.
And the more we tell ourselves,
if you think love, if you feel love all the time, if you feel that way, it shows up because your RAS is looking, seeking, and giving out love.
It's also, there's this really interesting way of thinking about love, right? So I can think about it like something that comes to me externally, or I can think about it as a way of being. So I can be loving. Every minute of my day, I can be loving. I can wash my dishes lovingly. I can pet my dog lovingly. I can work on my book lovingly. I can treat myself lovingly. I can order a coffee lovingly, right? Or I can imagine that love has to come from the outside, which means that I'm at the mercy of everyone else. And frankly, I would much rather be, developing it and doing it for myself, because then when I am loving in the world, when I'm doing everything in my life as a loving person, and I'm being loving, not only am I experiencing the feeling of, wow, this feels really good, but it's also what I'm giving out to the rest of the world. So it's a way that I can create a world that is loving. And everyone who I come into contact with is now going to experience more love because they're running into this person who is loving.
Yeah. You nailed it. Love is outwards. Love is an outward thing.
I think all of them are, though. I think joy is the same thing. You can be joyful, right? We can choose to be angry. We can choose to be joyful. It's really about being aware of, like how emotions affect our bodies and what kind of experience do we want to have every day? Do we want the physical experience of being angry, which is elevated heart rate? You feel a little hot under the collar. It's hard to breathe. Every muscle is tight. It's very physically uncomfortable. Or I can choose to be joyful or choose to be loving.